Hi fam, I hope you are doing well. If you are new here, my name is Kay. I hope you like it here and that you join this family by clicking on the subscribe button down below. And to my returning fam, my subscribers, my loyal people, welcome back, lovies. I'm back with a new video, and in this video, as you can tell by the title, I will be sharing with you the steps one needs to follow when buying a car in South Africa. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and make this as brief and straightforward as possible. I'm gonna be sharing with you 5 steps that you need to follow when purchasing a vehicle in South Africa. 5 easy steps, right? And I would think most of us are already aware of these steps, but I think this information is going to be most useful to someone who is buying a vehicle or planning to buy a vehicle for the first time. There goes the Springboks. Yeah, and I'm recording this video in the car. I was at GetWorth to see what they have, and then I just decided let me somewhere record now, right? While I'm here. So I might be looking down from time to time because I have my notes on my phone, so just to ensure that I don't forget anything. So I'm going to share with you 5 steps that you need to follow, and right at the end I'm going to also include some tips from my experience as well, things that you should just be aware of and mindful of, okay, as a first time buyer, or even if you're buying for the second time. But yeah, first you need to determine your budget. You need to know what you qualify for, and in qualifying I mean what you can afford comfortably at no more than 20% of your net income. Essentially, that's what it is. And in that 20%, if we're stretching it, we can say 25%, but try keep your vehicle expenses at 20% if you can. That is inclusive of your installment if you are financing the vehicle, insurance, and other maintenance costs. So on a monthly basis, your car expenses, as I mentioned, the installment, insurance, and maintenance should not exceed 20% of your monthly income, your net income, not your gross, your net income. When we're talking property, we look at about 30% of your gross is what you should consider, but for vehicles it's 20% of your net. So just remember that. So that's the starting point when looking at your budget for a vehicle. And then you would need to think about whether you are buying this vehicle cash. In that case, you need to have the full amount, but you need to know how much you can afford right up front. However, if you want to finance the vehicle, you might need to consider getting pre-approved by a bank that you would like to be financed by. Yeah, it would be best to just get pre-approved so that you know how much you qualify for and how much you can afford, because those are 2 different things. What you qualify for and what you can afford are 2 different things. The important thing here is what you can afford and comfortably afford. So get approved to see what you can afford comfortably, and like I said, ensure that your total car costs do not exceed 20%. Worst case scenario, 25%, but try cap it there, right? And the 20% is not a figure that I made up. It's a figure that is used by South Africa. So that's like the rule of thumb, but I think the Consumer Protection Act also alludes to that 20%. So that's where it comes from. And then because I follow Dave Ramsey, he normally says if the total cost of the car exceeds your annual income, you can't afford it. You cannot be driving a vehicle that costs more than what you make in a year, right? Because if you get into a difficult situation, you won't be able to afford that car. So that's another approach you can use, 20%, or you can tell yourself, like, if the total value or the total cost of the vehicle is more than your annual income, you can't afford it. Okay, so that's the first thing, right? Determining your budget. The second thing you want to look at is deciding on the car that you want. So deciding on the brand, even though it's not referred to as the brand, they call it the make in this industry, car industry. So you need to decide on the make and model that you want. So the first thing here for me is you need to decide if you want a new or used car. That's the first thing. And the difference, I guess I can explain in this way. A new car gives you the assurance that you will be the first person driving this car, owning this car, right? Also, because it's new, we don't anticipate that there will be issues such as the tires are worn out, the brake pads need replacing, and you're getting everything new. So you drive out the dealership and you can relax for a little bit. Additionally, you have the comfort of a service plan and a warranty plan. The maintenance plan is usually additional, but at least you will know that you have a service plan and a warranty plan. And please note that the service plan and the warranty cover or warranty plan are part of the cost that you will incur. So it's not for free, right? But it's easier to get a warranty plan and a service plan, especially a warranty plan on a new car, right? So those are the three things that I think are bonuses or pros of buying a brand new car. With a new car, you must just be careful of the additional costs that car sales people try to sneak in there, but we'll get to that, right? So that's the one con that I can already highlight. And then with a used car, you need to have a high risk appetite with a used car, okay? Because there will most likely be issues that you're not aware of that you will uncover once you've driven out the dealership with the car, once you've bought the car. So you need to be aware of that up front. And also, depending on how old the car is, if it's older than 5 years or 10 years, the car won't have a warranty plan. So you'll need to take out an extended warranty plan, which don't come cheap. And most of the time, you have to purchase that warranty plan cash. So you're looking at upwards of 10,000. Also, it depends on the make of the car, the year, model, and so forth, right? For your luxury cars, it's upwards of 10,000. Sometimes even 20K plus. Okay, so you need to just be prepared for that. That's why I'm saying you have to know your risk appetite right at the beginning. And you will need to do plenty of research where used cars are involved. You need to also always have cash on hand, because at any given point something can go wrong, right? And you will need to pay cash. So just be aware of those things. Unless you go for a used car that's like a year old, or 5 years old, because then it still has a service plan, a warranty plan, and you're good. Another thing to consider when thinking of getting a used car is the service history. You need to be very much aware and do your homework where things like that are concerned, to ensure that you're getting a car that's been taken care of. Yeah, cool. So if you're a first-time car buyer, I would most likely encourage you to consider getting a new car, because you will have the peace of mind. And secondly, you don't want your first time owning a car to be a bad experience. So to avoid issues that come with used cars, especially older models, rather consider getting a new car. Yeah. Okay, while we're on the topic of deciding on the brand, so once you've determined whether you want a used or a new car, you will shop around within your budget. You will go on a lengthy exercise, visit different dealerships, reputable dealerships. And I'm saying this because once you decide on the car that you want to be assured that you are buying a car from a reputable dealership, because you want a dealership that is going to offer you good service, and secondly, a dealership with a good after sales department. You don't want to have issues with the after sales department, so you need to make sure that you are dealing with a good reputable dealership. And you can go about this, determining this, by reading reviews online, right? And see what people say about the dealership, right? So, yeah. And so you shop around at good dealerships and you compare prices. You compare the makes of the vehicles, the models, specifications, as well as the pricing. And then once you have done that exercise, you test drive the vehicles, right? Come up with a top 3 of the vehicles that you want to consider from the different dealerships based on what I've mentioned, the pricing, the specs, the make and model of the car, all of that. And then you test drive 3 from your list, from your top 3 list. And once you've done that and you know for sure the car that you want, we can then move on to the next level. But before we get there, you test drive your car. And if you don't know much about cars, do this process with someone who knows about cars, someone who's owned a car, had gone through this process, and can share their lessons learned, right? Even with the test drive, take someone with you who knows about cars, because you don't want the sales rep just telling you stories. Remember, sales reps are not your friends. They're not your friends. They are in the business of selling cars, making money. They're not your friends. So take someone with you who can advise, and just to give you a second pair of eyes also, right? And then once you've done that, and you now know the car that you have an idea of the top 2 at this point, the last thing you need to do now is check the resale value of those cars and compare. The reason for this is you might want to sell the car maybe in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years time. You want to ensure that there's some kind of return on investment. Granted, a car is a depreciating asset, but you still want to get something out of it, right? At the end of the day, when you sell. So compare between the different brands in your top 3 or top 2 at this point, and check the resale value of those 2 cars and make a comparison. Some cars typically retain their resale value better than others. So I don't want to now bash brands, whatever, but just do that exercise. You can visit a website. I will put it here on screen for you if I can find it, that you can visit, and it will show you the book value and resale value, whatever, of a vehicle, right? Yeah, just so you can do that exercise. So that's like the last thing you do there. Now moving on to step 3. So we mentioned step 1, which was determining the budget. Step 2 was deciding on the make and model of the car. Step 3 is research financing options. So when you get to this stage, you already know your budget, you know what you can comfortably afford. You know if you want a used or new car and which brand from which dealership. And now you need to decide how you are financing this vehicle. So we all know cash is king, but not everyone has cash for a vehicle, especially a brand new vehicle. Not everyone is privileged that way, right? So most of us end up needing financing from a bank. And in this case, a tip that I can give here is use your banker if you have a banker. If you have a banker, involve them right at the beginning of this process. If not, at this point, when you now know what you want, approach your bank. I would advise approach your bank, get a consultant there and tell them your story and work with that person to see if the bank can finance you and at what rate. All right. And yeah, I would advise you to not leave this responsibility to the car sales rep, because as I mentioned, they're not your friend. So they're not going to negotiate the best rate for you, right? So I would urge anyone to take matters into their own hand, go to your bank and ask for financing. And then obviously you know what your credit standing is and what your credit score looks like, your credit history. You can then negotiate with the bank once they put an offer on the table to say, I think this interest rate is a bit steep, or for whatever reason, you can negotiate. Don't accept the first offer they give you. Remember, this is business for the bank. You are actually bringing them business, right? So you are their client at the end of the day. So negotiate with the consultant to give you a better offer. You should be aiming for prime -1, but we know that's not always the case. So if it's prime +1, that's still acceptable. But anything prime +2, no. And if it's not working with your own bank, the bank that you bank with, try other banks. Try and aim for prime -1 or prime, worst case prime +1. But anything above that, I would say walk away. Though there's always a bank that's going to be willing to fund you, to finance you. So don't accept the first offer that is put on the table, right? And tell them that when you go to the next bank, tell them I already received this kind of offer from this bank. I wasn't willing to accept it there, so I'm not going to accept it here. So can you try beat them? And if you do and I accept, I might just move my business this side, move my salary to this bank. So try and negotiate with the banks. That's what I'm saying. Take it upon yourself to seek for funding. Don't just leave it to the sales rep, because they wouldn't go to those lengths. For them, it's about just clinching the deal, meeting the target for the month, and that's that, right? So negotiate with the bank and never accept the first offer that they put on the table. Step number 4 is arrange for insurance. So at this point, you know your budget, you know the car you want, where you're buying it from, you know how you are financing this car, and you know how you're financing the car, and what your premium is going to be and all of that. Now you have to find insurance. this is very important, and I know a lot of people try to maneuver out of insurance, and don't do it. Don't do it. Get insurance. Source codes. Also, this is a step that you should do. Don't leave it to anybody else. Do it yourself. Shop around. Compare prices, and go for reputable insurance companies, guys. Don't go for some manga business that just popped up last year or a few months ago. Like, go for reputable companies and play that game with them as well. Try to negotiate. Yeah, all of that. I know with some insurances as well, if you install a tracker, they will deduct 10% from your premium, something like that. So play around and shop around and compare prices and see how you can bring the premium down, right? Yeah. And also, again, with them, you are a client, so you bring in business to them, not the other way around. So they want your business and you want the protection, but don't ever be desperate. Negotiate your way around, okay? And also, before I forget here, remember to read reviews. So whichever company you end up going with, or if you have top 3 that you're comparing between, read the reviews. Go on Hello Peter and see what people are saying about these companies, because unfortunately with insurance, you don't know if they are good or not up until such a time you need to claim. So go and read up on their customer service, recovery rate, and yeah, all that jazz, and then make a decision from there. The last step is finalize the process. This is where you sign the paperwork, you accept the offer. Well, not the offer, but you finalize the paperwork with the dealership. You sign for the warranties and service plan, and then you also arrange for delivery or collection. And be careful there with that delivery cost. I know sometimes it's a bit tricky with new cars, but if you are going for a used car, negotiate, guys. Negotiate and try and untangle your way out of that delivery cost, because they will charge you the delivery cost, but you will go and collect the car. So try and negotiate as much as you can. And with new cars, please be careful of all the additional costs or additional services that the dealership would, at the end of the day, just want to slide in there. So right up front, when you are viewing cars and you're comparing and you're visiting different dealerships, ask them, what is the total cost of this car? Like, total cost of the car, cost of your services, and everything, so that you're not shocked at the end of the day, right? So right at the beginning, when you're visiting dealerships, ask them what the total cost is, inclusive of services, etc., right? And yeah, and I think at this stage you are ready to sign. Ensure that you're not rushed into anything. Read the fine print, and have someone with you. Have someone with you read that contract. One of the tricks that I know sales people will use is they don't call you the whole day, and then they call you at 4 p.m. and they tell you you've been approved, your car is ready, it's washed, it's got the ribbon on it, they've prepared champagne and whatnot, and you must come now. Like, they make it sound so urgent, like if you don't go there now, you're not going to get this car. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. That's a trap. And here's why. They will create that situation and rush you, and then you get there, and then you have to quickly sign because they knock off at 5, and you also want to get out there before 5 because you don't want to be stuck in traffic with your new car, and you don't read the fine print. And trust me, in the following month, you are shocked by that first installment that you need to pay, because they've added all these extra things that you were not aware of. So don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. And second tip I can give to you here is when they call you and you have to make that final you have to go in to finalize the paperwork, take someone with you. Have someone there with you that can help and be your second pair of eyes and read that contract with you, because that's what it is. That the papers that you sign right at the end, that's the contract. That's the contract that they send to the bank, and they keep and they give you a copy. So make sure that you read that thing thoroughly. You're not rushed. You're not under pressure. Yeah. Okay. So that's the end of that process. A few tips that I can give. I think I might have shared some of them already. The first one is read the fine print. I think I've already alluded to this in the video. The second one is don't rush through the process, and don't let anyone rush you. You don't want to make mistakes here. You don't want to be rushed, because chances are this is a contract that you're entering in that's going to be valid for the next 4 or 5 years. Oh, another tip I can give here, tip number 3, is don't go for vehicle contracts that are valid for anything more than 5 years. Ideally, stick to 4. Worst case scenario, 5 years. I've seen people with contracts that are valid for like 7 years, 8 years. Guys, if you cannot afford the installment over a 4 or 5 year period, chances are you can't afford that car. Don't force and extend the period, because a salesperson will say, what's your budget? How much do you want to pay per month? And you will say 5K. And they can sell you a car worth R1 million and structure that financing to ensure that you pay your 5,000, but you will pay that car for 10 years at an interest rate of 20%. Don't do that. Don't go to a dealership and tell the salesperson upfront what your budget is. Keep that information to yourself, because they will corner you into a deal that you didn't want. So don't do that, right? Tip number 5, if you are unsure of anything, rather stop and ask questions. Don't just agree. Don't sign if you don't understand something. Rather pause, ask questions, seek clarity, and then you can continue at a later stage once you are comfortable. If something is not giving you peace and you're not comfortable, rather stop, right? I don't know what number this is now. I think this might be number 5 or 6. Take someone knowledgeable with you. From the beginning of your process, you want to ensure that you have someone experienced, someone knowledgeable with you, to guide and to share their lessons learned, to help you avoid making the same mistakes, right? And then lastly, the car sales rep or the sales consultant is not your friend. They speak really fast. They can sell ice to an Eskimo. So make sure that you pay attention when you're around them and you listen. And not just to what they're saying, but also listen to what they're not saying. And ask questions, seek clarity. Don't just be agreeable. You are preparing to get into a contract that is going to last you a couple of years. So you want to make sure that you've got your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Yeah. Okay. I think that's all that I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I decided to film this in the car because I think it just makes sense and it speaks to the topic at hand. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please remember to give it a like. If you did, also consider sharing it with others. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please consider subscribing, because I will be bringing more content like this in the future, because I can see that you guys also like it, you enjoy it, and you engage with this content a lot more. So thank you for that. To my loyal people, my subscribers, my fam, thank you so much, lovies. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Oh, and before I forget, you can look forward to another video where I will be showing you entry-level cars or affordable cars for under 200k. So look out for that video. Okay guys, see you in the next one.